is very long because I wasn't willing, right? 6 and 7 step is about willingness and action. And I wasn't willing to do anything. I went to a million rehabs and detoxes, recovery houses. Like, I've done it all. And I always share that with people. I've done it all. You know, I have 14 years. I just celebrated 14 years on January 3rd. And I have not found a reason or an excuse or anything to use ever again, just for today, you know. I'm gonna start from the beginning. You know, I was raised Catholic. I was raised in a very abusive household. I'm the middle of 5 children. I always knew something was wrong with me because I never felt a part of or even secure in my own body. I always felt like I was different or I needed to be somewhere else than inside my family. So I always knew like there was something not right with me. You know, many times people said, like, you have a problem, you need help. And I'd be like, you're the problem, not me. I got this. And I lived off of, so the 6th step is about your defects of character. And, like, I'm here to say, like, when I got here, I didn't think I had any defects. I didn't think I had none. I thought I was great, you know. I thought everybody else was the problem. And I was the victim. Like, it was everybody else's fault but mine. And, you know, it took a lot of work for me to not be a victim anymore. Because I learned how to manipulate, lie, and all that when I was a little girl. You know, if my dad said, hey, did you do that? I'd be like, nope, even though I knew I did it. And so I carried those traits with me through all my using and all my adult life. And I used those traits as like a defense mechanism. You know what I mean? I was the type of person, like, I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me. I was the type of person, you know, like, if I could manipulate out of anything. I was a liar, a cheat, a thief, all that stuff. You know, and like I had been in and out of the rooms for a really long time because, like I said, I wasn't willing to do anything. I would like look at the step work and be like, that's not for me. I don't need to do that. I would watch other people like living their life, and I'm like, that's never gonna happen for me. Like, I'm gonna die like as a drug addict, and I'm okay with that. Like, I can remember, like, you know, thinking that, like, my whole life. Like, I was okay with the fact that I had this disease, and I knew nothing was ever going to help me or save me. And I didn't have a God in my life because I thought God had abandoned me. I thought God had let me down. I thought he cursed me. I thought he punished me because that's the God I grew up with. Like, all the commandments, I broke every single one. You know, so I thought I was going to hell, and like I remember like believing like it was okay, like I was okay with that. Like that was my destination, that was what was going to happen, and I was okay with that. And I never believed that I would have the life that I have today, like ever. Like if you would have told me 14 years ago that I'd be standing up on a stage for the Firm Foundation, I'd be like, you're out of your freaking mind. I didn't curse, Zach. You know, I'm honored. Thank you for asking me to speak. I have been coming to your recovery stuff since you guys started. You know, I've been a part of. I haven't really, you know, whatever. I show up. Because that's what I was taught to do. Like, you just show up. You know, you have to be willing. And, you know, I'm just going to, like, fast forward. You know, I had kids, you know, when I was using, and I gave my children away. Willingly. That's when I was willing. And I just did anything and everything, man. Like, I lived my life on the edge. I lived my life like it was, you know, the last day. Like, I didn't care what tomorrow was going to bring. I never thought that I had a purpose, like, ever. Like, I never thought I had a purpose. I thought my purpose was just to live the way I was living, and that was it. And, you know, like I said, this recovery process was very long for me. I was 17 when I came in, and I was 32 when I finally surrendered, because you have to surrender. And I learned that, you know, you have to surrender. And like, I surrender still every day. I don't care how much time I have. I don't care how much recovery work I've put in. Like, I still have to surrender to myself. Because I heard somebody say earlier, like, I'm my own worst critic still. Like, I will still tell, like, even tonight, like, I was so nervous to be here because I don't really like speaking in a microphone. And I'm not an attention seeker anymore. Like, I don't need the world to, like, look at me and be like, hey, you know, I'm okay with who I am today. I'm okay that, that the changes that I've made in my life, because I made them all for the right reasons. And I really believe 6 and 7, you can't do that without 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, So my first step is you had to surrender, right? And admit that you're powerless and that you can't do this by yourself. I hadn't found a higher power yet. I wasn't ready for that. I really was like, God, I'm good. I don't need that. And I still felt like I had control. I still felt like I could control my whole life, and quickly realized that that wasn't true, because any decisions that I made within my first couple of years were not were not good. So I had to find a higher power, and I do choose to call my higher power God today. And it took me a long time to get there. I was the type of person, I'm in a fellowship. I'm not going to talk about it because I believe this is not where we're at. But I'm in a fellowship where, they said you can make your higher power whatever you want. Just think if it's something greater than yourself. And I used the rooms. I used my fellowship as my higher power for a long time, because the women in my life, they really held me up, and they loved me until I learned how to love myself. And they taught me, how to be a woman, how to be a mother, how to be this, how to, everything. I owe my whole life, to the women in my beginning. And then there was eventually where all those women weren't around anymore. They had different lives, and when we come into recovery, we get a life, and responsibilities. I got my children back who I abandoned, to use when I was 6 months in recovery. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I can remember the time when I really started believing in my God was I had 6 years clean, and I wanted to use, I really, really wanted to use, I was back in the fetal position. And I remember somebody had told me there's going to be a time where it's just going to be you and your God. And what are you going to do, right? And I experienced this at 6 years clean. I went through a horrible divorce, and I didn't know what to do with my life. My identity was gone again, because my identity and my higher power was my husband at the time. And I remember calling my support network and calling my sponsor, and nobody answered the phone. Nobody answered the phone, and I was like, all right, here we go. Let me get on my knees finally, and let me just ask God to please, please don't let me leave this room tonight, and don't let me make this decision, and just carry me through tonight, and don't let me get high. And I didn't use. And I was like, well, maybe there's something with this. And I started seeing all the blessings in my life happen. It didn't happen right away for me. I still wanted to use for a really long time. It was still something that was my first thought when I woke up in the morning. But when I had that 6 years clean, I'd already done, some step work. And I think my first round of the step work that I just did it because I knew that if I didn't, I wouldn't get better. And because for years, I hadn't done it. So I was like, maybe I need to do something different, like we talk about, right? Maybe I need to do something different and make a change. So when I came in on January 3rd, 2012, thank God, my last run, I made a decision. I made the decision that I was going to do whatever it took to stay clean, and I didn't care, and nobody was going to get in my way. And I did it. And I started my step work right away with my sponsor. And I remember when I asked her to be my sponsor, and I remember it so vividly like it was yesterday. I was in a meeting, and I heard this woman share, and I had decided I wasn't going back to rehab or detoxes or anything like that, because I had already done all that. I had exhausted all my state funds. I couldn't, I wasn't going to do that anymore and get on any type of program. I was like, I'm just going to go to where I know. And I walked in there, and I sat in the back, and I watched this woman share, and I really liked what she had to say. It resonated with me. Finally, I actually was open-minded to listen to what other people were saying, and I hadn't been closed-minded anymore, because I was always one of my biggest defects was I was so closed-minded. I just didn't think anything could happen for me because it happened for you. I really believed that. I was different, unique. And I had to put all those vices down, and I had to just surrender, and I had to allow some women and my sponsor to really help me. And that was really hard because, like I said, I'm a control freak. That's one of my defects. I know that's one of my defects. Self-centeredness is one of my defects. Playing the victim was a huge defect of mine, you know. It was everybody else's fault and not mine. And when I started doing the step work, I realized that I was the problem. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, no way, not me, I'm not a problem, I'm good. But no, I was the problem. I was the one that made all the decisions and the choices. You know, the drugs stopped me from anything that I could do. You know, I wasn't like the type of kid when I was in school that was like, I want to go to college and I want to do this. I was like the party girl. You know, I could outdo this and I could outdo that, and I could party like the rest of them, man, and I did that. And, you know, this time I was like, you know what, maybe I need to actually follow direction. And I did. I followed the direction, and, you know, I heard this woman share, and she went to the bathroom. Like, she left and walked into the bathroom, and I still get chills when I think about it, because she died as a direct result of this disease when I had 2 years clean. But I followed this woman in the bathroom, and I got on my knees in front of her, and I said, please help me. I can't do this by myself anymore. That was really the day that I had surrendered. That was really the day that I made the decision. That was the day that, like, I felt like that monkey was off my back, everything was lifted, and I felt like I was going to be okay. Because I had never felt okay. I lived on the edge. I lived like something was going to happen. I was very paranoid at the world. I trusted nobody. I lived in fear my whole life, a fear of failure, fear of success, fear of this, fear of that. And like I ran with that. And like this time I was like, I got to let all those things down, and I just got to let somebody help me. And this woman helped me for 2 years, and we started step work right away. And I started like seeing things happening in my life, and I was like, wow, like maybe this is really the way you're supposed to do it, you know? And I finally believed in something greater than myself. I finally believed that for once I was going to be okay. And I live that life every day, man. You know, my defects don't define who I am, but I'm grateful for them, because I really think that I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for them. I really think that if I didn't find my God, because my God's not vengeful. My God doesn't judge me. My God doesn't punish me. My God doesn't do none of that. My God loves me right where I'm at. My God is a great God. Like, I really believe that he was always there, like I do, because I've been through a lot of stuff. Like, I should be dead 10 times over, and I'm not. And I believe that every situation and everything in my life that I did, I had somebody with me the whole entire time. You know, every decision that I ever made, I know I had somebody with me. And, like, I believe that wholeheartedly, because, like, even though I have 14 years, like, I still sometimes think about using. You know, sometimes my brain still, like, will tell me lies. And, like, sometimes I'll listen to them, and they're just, like, fleeting things, you know? And I just know that as long as I stay on the path that I'm at, and I don't question God's plan for me anymore. I plan for my future, but I plan for it accordingly, if that makes sense. You know, like I've raised my children, you know, they're now 21 and 22. And sometimes I still can't believe it, but they are productive members of society. They are nothing like I broke the cycle. We broke the cycle. Like my higher power has done more for me than I think anyone has ever done for me in my entire life. Like, I feel comfortable in my own skin today. You know, I don't know, man. Like, I just am eternally grateful, you know, that I found somewhere that I belong. You know, when I walk into a meeting, I feel that sense of peace that I've always wanted. I've been so, like, anxietied up my whole life, and now I have this, like, inner peace that, like, I love you where you're at. I don't judge people, you know. I went through a traumatic thing, like, a couple of years ago, and, you know, in my fellowship, and it was, you know, people judging me based off my humanness because I made some mistakes, you know, and it wasn't anything detrimental to my recovery process, but it was, you know, they couldn't handle that somebody with that much clean time could do the things that I did, and it wasn't anything bad or nothing like that. I mean, my friends know what it was, but, you know, I was gonna stop coming to meetings, and then I thought to myself, like, how dare I stop coming to somewhere that saved my life? Like, literally picked me up out of the gutter and saved my life and gave me my children back. Like, my children have never seen me get high. My children have never, you know, got to see that side of me. Like, they depend on me today. Like, when I say I'm going to be there, like, I'm going to be there. I was the mom that, like, I was the mom that, I was the absentee mom. Like, I was the mom that said she would show up, but I couldn't put a pipe down. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I couldn't. I was the mom that promised to be there, and I couldn't be there, because my using was so bad, and I just wasn't there yet. Like, my brain wasn't there. My heart was always there, but like my brain, I couldn't get it to match with my heart. I love my children. I love all of my children. And I'm grateful that they don't ever have to see me the way that I was. I'm grateful that I have been restored to sanity, that I don't, I don't know, like, I always say, and I'm going to say this, like, I've been programmed, and I'm okay with that, because I'm not the same person that I was 14 years ago and some months ago, I have truly put the work in. I don't just sit around and hang out. I do the work. Like, I just finished my 6th step. That's why when you said it was a 6th and 7th step, and I called my sponsor, she's like, this is perfect for you. I was like, that's great. I just finished my third round of I'm on step 6 for the 3rd time, and it's just different, man. I still have these defects. The ones that I thought that I've humbly asked to be removed, they still pop up. I can still be arrogant. I can still be self-centered. I can still be envious. I can still be all those things. But the good news is that I know I'm not doing it alone, and I know that my higher power is with me, and I know that I can get through anything as long as I, like, really believe. Like, my heart now matches with my brain. When I say what I say it. I say it with conviction. I say it because I believe it. I don't just say it to say it. I'm a woman in recovery, and I help a lot of people. And I don't do that for myself. I do that because it was freely given to me. Like, the recovery process is free, and I just love I just love my program. I just love the people in it. My life is so full. I mean, all the things that I have done in the last 14 years, I still am completely baffled by, because, I've been in the same career for 11 years. I could never hold a job. The same career for 11 years, and I just advanced last year. I just got a promotion because I asked for it, because I wasn't afraid. Like, I act on faith today, not fear. Fear doesn't run my life. Like, I have gone through so many things in this process, and it's all through faith that I'm able to stand up here today. It's all because of relying on something bigger than myself. It's all because I do the work, and I don't just do it to say I do it. Like, I do it. I mean, I've been in step work where I'm like, oh my God, it just, everything, I try not to, like, really dwell on my past too much, because it's my past. And I do believe, and I said this earlier, like, it's made me who I am today. I believe that I am the woman that I am standing here because of the things that I went through. I believe that, that my higher power guides me every day, even at work, like in situations that I have at work sometimes, like, my first thought sometimes is to beat somebody up if they act crazy in front of me, but like, now I'm able to, like, walk away from it. And that's because of the program. That's because of recovery. The old Jen wouldn't have done that. The old Jen would have been left in handcuffs and probably lost her job because she was acting out of character. And I love, I love who I am today. Like, I don't just say it. Like, I love who I am today. I love that everything is an experience and everything is a learning experience, and that no matter what, I don't have to get high. No matter what, I don't have to act on that defect. I can actually sit back and think about it, and even call people. I still call people and ask them for direction and ask them for suggestions, because sometimes my thoughts is like, I don't, even though I know, and like, I feel it in my heart or my gut that it's not the right thing to do, I still question if it is the right thing to do. And, like, I was apprehensive about speaking here, but not because of anything else, but like, I have 14 years clean in a fellowship that I love with all my heart, and I believe in that fellowship, and I had a little bit of convictions Because sometimes my brain's like, they don't want to hear what you have to say about what you did. Like, even in meetings when I speak when I speak there, my brain will be like, shut up. They don't want to hear what you have to say anymore. You've said enough. Like, you keep talking. But honestly, every time I share, I have somebody come up to me and say, oh my God, I loved your story. No matter how crazy I think it sounds in my head, I always have people come up to me and say, will you sponsor me? I'm like, did you not hear what I just said? And that's not me, man. I really believe that that's God. I really believe that that's my higher power directing me to help somebody else, directing me to help somebody else and to get outside of myself. And that's what I do. I believe in doing things for the right reason. I believe that, no matter what happens in my life, I don't have to get high. And I believe that it's just a beautiful process, it's just a beautiful process. I was talking to somebody before here, and I was like, I don't know what to say. Hopefully I gave a good message. I'm usually a lot more darker, and I was trying not to curse. I told Zach, I was like, I hope I don't curse, because I don't want to, disrespect anybody. But I love this. I love this. I love what you guys do for the recovery community, because there's a lot of people out there that need stuff like this. There's a lot of people that are suffering and are still struggling, and I know that we can't save everybody, but at least if we save one person in a room, that's a blessing. That's a huge blessing. And is that enough time? I think I'm done. Thank you.
Alrighty, we had a speaker with some car trouble, so we had to call an audible. Our next speaker, he doesn't know this, but he is the reason that I stuck in the rooms. I was 9 months into just rolling through life as a dry drunk, miserable, and still just as ready to hang it up as I was the night I stopped drinking. And it wasn't until this gentleman, I don't remember a single other thing that he said that night other than, you're here because you're just as sick as me. And that was it. I committed, and that was my step one night. I'm never drinking again. And this gentleman continues to speak at meetings whenever he's asked, anywhere, and just does it with pure conviction. And you're about to see that tonight. So it's my pleasure to introduce Matt Anderson. Take a shortcut. Good to see you, brother.
I didn't know that. I had no idea. And that's a cool part about what we do is I don't know everything, I don't know how what I do helps other people a lot. I don't understand, how I affect other people. I know other people tell me those things, but I don't see those things because I just feel like I'm just doing what I was assigned to do, So it isn't as powerful to me as it is for some of you sometimes, But I'm happy to be here and be a servant of Christ, I'm happy that I get to talk about that as well, So my name is Matthew Anderson. I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I appreciate being here. This is audible. I didn't know, but now I know. 6 and 7 is a super deep subject, and then it's super not that deep, I will say that coming in the rooms and coming into recovery, I really thought that I was okay already, Like I would come to meetings, I've been coming around the fellowship since 2005. And I would come into meetings, and I promise you it was you. You did it. I'm here because this happened. And like trauma, that's why I'm here. And if what happened to you happened to me, happened to you, you would be like me too, But there's really no way of digging into 6 and 7 without really getting into a 4-step inventory on my life and how I got here to begin with, because I wasn't able to look at character defects or even see them. It's like Jen said, I still got all of this stuff. Like, watch me on 95, Play basketball with me. Join a fantasy football league with me. And you will see defects of character at their finest. So it's cool I get to be, a servant and be in people's lives and be a part of like doing what God asked me to do and being a huge part of recovery and trying to change like the dynamics of what recovery is in our state. Because for years, like our state was like kind of separate, Jen spoke a little bit about that as well. There's been this separation that I see anyway. My experience with recovery is like separation between fellowships in the beginning, where it's like NAAA, like it's like a gang, and we join us, and if you don't, like, oh, them people are, and you'll see like we used to have all these like Facebook posts when Facebook first came out, and it would say AA, and it would have a crowd of people look like this, and it would say NA, then you see like all the cool people and stuff. So there was like this gang going on, and like having this experience that I'm about to talk to you about is what really convicted me to come back to Delaware and give back to my people. Because you are my people. This is where I grew up. This is where I'm from. I've been to jail here. I fought with some of you. I went to jail with some of you. I got high and used drugs with some of you. Like this is where my heart is. I get to be a completely different person here, and that allows God to use me in a beneficial way. More so here than anywhere else. Although I'm beneficial everywhere I go, I try to be a servant everywhere I go. I'm more powerful here. Well, God's more powerful through me here. Just because you guys have seen all my faults, all my defects of character. You have seen me at the lowest stages of who I was, and now you bear witness to, you can see that something happened to me now, So I got to go through this. When I was in rehab, I'm just going to get right to it, because I don't have much time. And when I went to rehab, I went with my significant other. We both went to rehab together. I was completely broken and hopeless. Now, that is a condition that sounds like it sucks for some of you, when you're in that spot of like being broken and afraid, of not what's to come, afraid of what's going to happen, you're afraid of everything that's going on in your life. You're afraid of being sober. You don't know what that looks like because you haven't been it in so long. Like you're at your ends where you're going to end up in prison for the rest of your life, or you're going to end up dead. And like that's where I was at. I was at that broken, hopeless place in my life. Like there was nothing else. I was out of ideas. And I don't mean out of ideas and, maybe one more. I was just like, I knew that I was going to die, and I knew it was soon. I tell people all the time that I knew I was either going to spend the rest of my life in jail or die, but the truth is, I knew I was going to die, and it was very close. Like I was hanging by a thread, man. I was dead at every hospital. Like everywhere I was waking up, I was ODing like so many times, just about on a daily basis, fighting for my life, not knowing where to go, waking up, not trying to stop but can't, knowing that I was going to OD again eventually and end up dead, but I could not stop. Like at that place, at the place where like I knew that life was going to be over soon for me. And what a beautiful place that was. It was a horrible place when I was there. But like, that's where I found Christ, man. And I didn't find Christ. It's kind of like what Jen said. I didn't know, I had an experience with Christ in the past, but since then I had experiences with all sorts of, religious beliefs and spiritual practices and studying science and astrology and all sorts of stuff and getting some gemstones and, need some crystals. Like, I had tried all sorts of things. So the Christ thing that I found, which was so convicting as a child that had changed my life, which I don't have time to get into, was the last stop on the block for me here. But I'll just tell you, in that broken place, that very broken, hopeless place that maybe you are at, or maybe someone that's listening to this is at, what a beautiful place you're in. And I know that sounds crazy, but that is the truth. That is the place when I was out of ideas, hanging from a thread, knowing that my life is going to be over soon. That place is where something happened to me. Something happened to me. I remember they said, Matt, do you want to go to church? This is at the rehab. It's bougie in Florida, They like take you to church and stuff. Hey, you guys want to go to the beach? They got pools and, Anyway, so they were like, do you want to go to church? And I didn't want to go to church, but I wanted to get out of the rehab. And I was in that broken and hopeless state, and I just needed something. So I knew that, they were like church. So I was in the mix. I just wanted to find something. And honestly, God was the last stop on the block for me. It was the last stop. And not that I had any belief whatsoever that God would work for me. I went to the church. And then when I got to the church, there was a guy up there, and I spoke about this. A lot of you heard my story, and this is the truth. There was a guy up there. His name was Pastor Daniel. And Pastor Daniel was given a message on counterfeit. That's what he said, counterfeit. Don't fall for the counterfeit. This is the way. Don't fall for the counterfeit. Jesus is the way. And I heard, that dude spoke through that dude directly to me. And I don't mean Pastor Daniel was like, hey, Matt, you, or anything, or pointed to me. It's thousands of people at this church. He didn't just point at me. He didn't say anything directly to me, but I knew he was talking to me. Everything that man said was directed at me. I knew who he was talking to. I remember looking around the room and I was like, he's talking to me. I didn't know if anybody, I'm looking around the room and I'm like, he definitely ain't talking to these people, I'm in West Palm Beach. These people are bougie, driving Bentleys and all. It's a whole different level in West Palm Beach, believe me. But I knew he was talking to me. And at that moment, man, I just felt grace and mercy. And it helped me to change. I knew that God was in my life. I felt the conviction and presence of God surround me to a point where I just started bawling. And I knew that it was real. And whatever that was, I was following that. Life hanging by a thread. Follow that beautiful feeling that I just felt. And I followed it. So the reason that I'm sharing this with you is so you understand, there was some steps that happened before 6 and 7. Because we can get into this process and start talking about 6 and 7 and going into this stuff without you realizing that things happened before we got to a place. I could not see character defects in myself. The most difficult person for me to find something out about is me. We all heard it our whole lives, someone sees you better than you can see yourself, And that is the truth. I can point out all of your I could sit out there while we're eating dinner and I'm telling you, I know, look at her, Oh, look at him. Why is he doing that? I know what he's doing, I can point out all the people's defects of character, but I can't see them in myself. It's difficult enough to see them in myself going through the process, but you need to understand, in order for you to have a shot, not that they're going away, because they ain't, you just get better with them, but in order for you to even have a shot at seeing you, there's work to be done. I had to have this conviction and know that I needed God in my life, which allowed me to be willing to see myself from a different angle. You understand? I wasn't able to be willing to see myself until God came along. When God came and I felt the presence of God, I was willing to do absolutely anything to change. My willingness level went from I'm not doing nothing to I will do anything you want. So when I had that conviction and I go into, some other steps in my life, and I got to a place called inventory, which in the 12-step fellowships we all call a 4-step. And they had this question. And the 4-step, lots of people think is about pointing out, other people's defects of character. I thought it was a therapy session. It's yeah, my dad beat me, punk, you don't even understand. The PO locked me up, she cheated on me, he robbed me, they stole my stuff, and I thought that that's what it was about until someone explained it to me, and we get to the other side of inventory. And the other side of inventory, it says it's a searching and fearless moral inventory of who? Ourselves. Not my dad, the guy who robbed me, the girl who cheated, or none of that stuff. It's a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. But without this God piece, I was unable to see it. So I wasn't going to be able to see myself had I not had this experience already. So now I'm open and I'm willing to look, because this is the question. Are you prepared to look at yourself from an entirely different angle? That's the question. And I was. Because I had this conviction in God, because I was in the place that I was in, because I was hanging from a thread and my life was just about over, I felt death surrounding me. I'm telling you. Since those things happened and I was in that broken position, I was open and prepared to look at me from an entirely different angle. And the angle was this: where are my defects of character? That's really what the 4th column and the 4th step is about. It's looking at myself from an entirely different angle is, Matt, what did I do? Remember, what did she do? She cheated, But what did Matt do? I cheated too. A lot more than she did, I stole her stuff, robbed her, whatever. I'll give you an example. Dad, I'd use this a lot, Dad. I'll give you a different example because I use that too much and I don't want my dad to hear it, Brian. Brian is my baby's mother's husband. Forget Brian, I don't like Brian. That's how I felt. So he was on my inventory. So I was like, who are you angry with? Brian. What'd he do? He came around. Let me tell you about Brian. Brian comes into, we had a dance recital. My daughter had a dance recital. I've been in her jail most of her life. So when I came home, I went to this dance recital, and it's my first time being able to hang out with my daughter. And guess who's there? It was Brian. How dare you show up when I'm here? So I had a talk with Brian. And I said, man, come here, man, let me talk to you. So he's already nervous, I was a very violent criminal, it was like a real, So Brian everyone was kind of scared, So I was like, come here, Brian. He was like, oh, what's up, And I said, Brian, when I'm here, you're not. Do you understand me? And Brian's like, yeah, all right, yep. And like, then going through this inventory and viewing this thing because I'm resentful at this guy, being able to view my defects of character through this event, this is where I find them at. All your defects of character, 8 of the 4 steps come from inventory. This is where my character defects are at in that 4th column. That's where I see them. I'm a bully. I'm manipulative. You know, I'm ignorant. I'm inconsiderate. I'm selfish. So when I get to this point of being prepared to look at myself from an entirely different angle and prepared to look at Brian from an entirely different angle, I see like, yo, this is where I got at. Yo, this dude, this Brian fella, my daughter is 26 years old. I've been in jail 17 years of her life. And the times that I haven't been, she's already been an adult, or I just wasn't even around her whole life. And when I look at Brian from an entirely different angle, I see that Brian's been in her life all of these years. Yo, this dude raised my daughter, man. My daughter is an incredible woman. She's married to an incredible man. She's been to college, graduated. She lives in New York. She does her thing. She's self-sufficient. She is an amazing girl. I mean, amazing woman all the way around the board. If there was a perfect child that I would come up with, that I would want to have, it is Sienna. And I had nothing to do with it. So after realizing my defects of character and my faults and my selfishness and my self-centeredness and my resentments, I realized that, yo, now my daughter just got married a few years ago, and I got to be at the wedding, and I got to talk to Brian again. First time in about 25 years that I seen Brian, about 20. And I got to talk to Brian, and I was like, Brian, thank you. Thank you for taking care of my daughter. You did an incredible job with my baby, man. And thank you for being a man in her life when I couldn't be. And Brian said, Matt, she made it real easy, man. And like I got to be, you understand? Like I can't see myself without God, without doing this thing. These character defects are meaningless. In fact, the truth is, even now in recovery and knowing and can see myself at times, because I can't always see myself, like there's times that I get angry, especially like on the basketball court, and Zach is like grabbing me like, Matt, you know, and I'm just gone. I can't see Zach at all. I don't like these things about me. I know like we make fun of it sometimes, but I don't like losing control of me. I don't like losing control where I get so angry that like I can turn violent, you know? Like I don't like being that way. I don't like getting on 95 and being upset. I don't like being selfish, you know, and worrying about like people. I sell drug tests, believe it or not, you know? I sell drug tests and I do lab work. So a lot of the stuff that I do in toxicology and things like that is like I get to talk to a lot of people in the recovery industry. And if someone gets up and they're sharing, or I meet them at a meeting and they talk about they work at or their disposition or whatever, they own a treatment center, you know what my thought goes to? Complete selfishness, where I start thinking like, well, maybe I can get this account. And it starts to, my motive. It's not saying that that's wrong because we all take care of each other. Of course, I can save you. It's not like a bad thing, but it is bad when that is my only motive. My only motive is to talk to you, reach out to you to try to get an account. And it shouldn't be that way. So I couldn't see defects of character, and they don't go away. So 6, it's like I said, there's a lot of meat and potatoes in it. But then it's really as simple as this. My main character defect is selfish and self-centeredness. That's it. I can just boil it down to one. I don't got to go into all this other stuff because it's already, it's difficult enough for this one. But this one stems around all of them, selfish and self-centeredness. I'll explain. Kind, considerate, generous, modest, and self-sacrificing. They sound like assets, right? Depends on how you use them. Because I'll be kind to you, considerate to you, modest and self-sacrificing just to get what I want. I'll be kind to you. It's like, I use this analogy, but hey, so you look beautiful, You want to go to the movies? Take you out to dinner? And then, but my motive at the end is like, sex. And then when I don't get that, I get upset. So I'll be, for another one. Mom, I cut the grass. I did the yard work. The kitchen's clean. Can I have some money? That makes it a defect of character. So it's really what I'm using it and how I'm using it. Am I doing this for me? Then it's a defect. Am I trying to get something and steal something out of the show? That's a defect of character. Am I doing something for you? No strings attached? Just trying to help? Then that's an asset all day long. If I'm doing this for God and that's all my motive, I can do it daily at the meeting. Friday night, I just left Friday night. Tonight is Friday night. And Zach always makes these events on Friday nights, when we have a nice group going on and interfering with our group. Thank you, Zach, man. On Friday nights, I can go to a meeting. Sometimes there's 150 people in there, Sometimes more, sometimes a little less. But if I go into that meeting, it's important for me to pray and meditate before I even walk into that room, let alone when I wake up in the morning. But before I even walk into that room, because if not, I can go in there and then I can see a hot girl go in, and then all of a sudden my motive changes from helping you guys to her, trying to get her attention. I got to be mindful of myself. If I'm not, then I'm in trouble. It's not saying that I'm perfect. And then we got other steps that go into it. And 7 is really just praying and letting God have it all. Like, God, take these things away from me. Let me get better. And then we got more steps that talk about constructively reviewing my day. But at times, a defective character will make me or allow me to destructively review my day. Where it's like, oh, man, I messed up. And I start getting into self-pity and stuff like that instead of just saying, okay, I messed up, make sure I do it better next time. So the truth is, you can't see you. I couldn't see me without Christ. That's the truth. There was no way for Matthew Anderson to view Matthew Anderson without God's help. It even talks about that in our literature of Alcoholics Anonymous. I am a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it talks about that. There's no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. How do I get rid of me? It's me telling me I'm fine. I need something greater than me, which is Christ for me, to tell me, yo, man, you was not fine, bro. But I got you. So, I guess we're back to the normal piece, man. This whole thing is about God. This whole process. Without God, nothing is possible. With God in my life, everything is possible. I don't care what it is. Like, he makes all things possible. Saved a wretch like me. And I'm looking around the room, you too. So I appreciate y'all for letting me come out. Thank you.
God used that dude to speak to me. You know, I thank you and I love you, bro. It's me again. I got the opportunity to introduce a very, very good friend of mine. I have a few people in my life that like when I look at them, I really look up to them, and they have what I want, you know. And this man is a brother of mine. I can fall short, and I cannot talk to him for a little bit, you know. But when we do talk, we talk on the phone, or we see each other. The conversation is always, you know, God-centered, always recovery-centered, and how can we keep like helping each other? How can we help each other grow? Talking about our defects of character and like how we're seeing them in the step work, man, and it's just like it's amazing to have somebody like that in my life. So I introduce my brother Jim.
I'm Jim. I'm a man in recovery. Oh, man. I appreciate all you guys, man. There's so many people in this room that I learn from on a daily basis, and I'm just really grateful to be here. Really grateful, and also really super nervous, you know, for a reason that I can't really put a finger on, but I can relate to what Kenny was saying earlier. I was talking to a couple brothers before everything started, and I was like, man, if I could just get it out right in the beginning, that's how it always works for me. I got to tell them myself. The amount of times that I have rehearsed what I think I'm about to say over the last week, I probably could have been 302'd, man. You know what I mean? I brought a book. I brought two books. I brought the good book. I brought Drop the Rock. They're both sitting over there. I was like, man, don't even take them up there, bro. You know what I mean? Just be honest. And the enemy works on me like he's like, man, you can't go up there and say nothing valuable, you know? You can't go up there and you can't speak any life, man. You can't do that. That's not you. And I've been feeling the same way. I'm like, man, I don't even need to talk, you know? I won't even say too much. And but that's not how this thing works either, you know what I mean? I'm a man in recovery, man. God willing, March 12th, I'll be celebrating 14 years. And I have a home group. It is Strength and Recovery Wednesday night at 6:30 at the Journey Church, and I have a sponsor, and we do step work. And yep, Strength and Recovery. Let's go. I do my best to stay in service and to give where I can, man. And that's how this thing works. That's what people who came before me have taught me, right? Obedience before the hope. And I don't want to do it that way, you know what I mean? Like, I want to feel good, and I want to feel better, and I want to get inspired, and I want to feel it before I obey, before I step out, before I walk. And that's a character defect of mine, you know what I mean? You know, I also came through AA. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you know, when I first came around and I first was doing the steps, I have had the privilege to now go through the steps a couple times, and I'm currently just moving through my fourth step, so it's like amazing that I'm here, you know, tonight with you guys, because some of this stuff is just real fresh, and everything that everybody's saying is just hitting me left and right. And it's so funny how, like, when you're doing step work, you guys know what I'm talking about. When you're doing step work, it's like everything in your life mimics like what you're going through in your step work. All your stuff comes out. All my character defects were popping up everywhere, bro, everywhere. And when I first did step work, and I did an inventory, and I talked about it, and I got honest, we did kind of just like breeze through step 6 and 7. We kind of just prayed to have these things removed that I talked about in my step 4, but I can say that I really didn't understand what those things were, you know. I could identify that I was and am. Everybody was saying it. These are things that don't go away, right? I've heard a lot of times step 6 and 7 be referred to as a garden, right? Things grow, things prosper, things die in a garden. Weeds grow in a garden, character defects being the weeds. And like last year, my wife, she was redoing our garden, and she used a blowtorch, like a torch, to kill these weeds. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yo, that's dramatic. You know what I mean? I was like, but it's tough. Like, I'm with it. Yo, it's not even a year, and them things they're all the way back, man. All the way back. I'm like, that's my life. This is my life, man. You know? I couldn't, like, literally right now going through the steps, I can identify that I'm selfish. I mean, Matt put that beautifully, right? I can identify that I'm selfish and self-centered. I can identify that I have and will and can and do make a lot of stuff in my life about me and how I feel and how I need to feel and how I don't want to feel. And it's a lot about my feelings, right? It's a lot about me. I can identify all those things, my fear of intimacy, my fear of rejection, fear of authority figures, confrontation with authority figures. I can identify all them things, but now I can. But one of the things that I'm just now in my walk being able to look at is how and when they pop up in my life, meaning like where they come from, my exact nature, and how the behavior comes out, right? So when I first came home from jail in 2013, I was in a totally different place. I had a lot of shame and guilt over things I had done, just like a lot of us, right? And I was holding on to that so much. I remember I didn't have a license for the first 3 years of sobriety, right? So I'm riding my bike to work, and I'm like, you know, I'm in the zone, and I'm listening to all the motivational videos and like gritting it and bearing it and like, you know, getting inspired and motivating. And when I'm on the bike, I'm like, I know exactly why I'm on this bike, and I'm beating myself up every single day, like wind in the face, like, yeah, Jim, like you know why you're riding this bike, you know what I mean? Like, you get it, you know what I mean? Like this is where you deserve to be. I'm beating myself up with this shame and guilt. And I thought it was humility. Like, I thought that that lowering myself, beating myself up was humility. And really, it was ego. And I had no idea. And it took a sponsor pointing that out. And I was like, no, ego is like when you think real highly of yourself, like better, like you're better than somebody. He was like, no, there is a reverse ego, right? And when you think less of yourself, and you're punishing yourself and you're beating yourself up, right, for whatever reason, that's also ego. It's still all about you. I healed through that, right? Like God in my walk, through step work, through service, through sponsorship, through fellowship, through connection, through what we do. The beautiful program that we work, the courageous work that we do, right? God began to change me, but and I thought I had burnt some weeds, right? Like blowtorched them, they're gone, and they cropped back up in a different way, right? So I let go of some of the shame and guilt. Years later, I'm married, right? I have a little girl. You know, I get to be a husband and a father today, and you know, I'm upset and I'm full of shame and fear when maybe my needs aren't met, when affection isn't being reciprocated. And similar to what my brothers and sisters were saying, you know, I'm pointing the finger, and I'm looking and I'm saying to myself, well, she must not love me, you know, I must not be good enough, right? And I go through cycles where the enemy works on me like that. And I can identify that they're lies today, but they still crop up. And they started cropping up so often that I found myself in a place with, I think maybe, I don't know, it was like, you know, year 10 maybe, I don't know, it was 2022, broken because I could not see the effects of my character defects. I couldn't see my behavior. I couldn't see me. And I was codependent. I was dependent on my wife's love, and I felt rejection, and all these behaviors were popping up. I'm self-conscious. I'm a mess. And she deployed, and so she went overseas, and I'm left, with my daughter and all these plans. You know what I mean? I was like, yo, I'm about to go to the gym. I'm about to be at this meeting on this day, and this. I'm about to do this, and oh man, and all that stuff went out the window, and I felt alone, and I felt less than, and I started to realize what was really going on in my spirit. And I reached out to a buddy of mine, and that's when I started going to Strength and Recovery. And, God had been the foundation of my life already at that point. He had been the foundation of my sobriety, but it was my old self, right? It was my the old self and how I understood. It was more religion and less spirituality, right? So I kind of jumped in. I kind of was in so much pain. And some of you guys might know what I'm talking about. Like this was the first time in sobriety that I felt broken to a point where I had just as much desperation as I did when I was coming out of jail. I had just as much desperation and surrender as I did in the beginning. And my life started to change, man. Me and my daughter started going to small group together while my wife was away. We started going to church together while my wife was away. That continued when my wife came back, and she started coming to church with us. And she still does sometimes, you know what I mean? And God's working on her and pulling us, and he's doing amazing things, right? And I knew, as soon as I started going to Strength and Recovery, I knew, especially when I got into the step work, I started fellowshipping with my brothers and sisters here, my brothers and sisters in Christ. I knew where I was going. And November 9th, Kenny, it was November 9th, 2023, I think. We were down at a Fisher Men's retreat, and I asked to get baptized. And, the perception that I had was like, of course I was coming here. I knew I was coming here. I knew this was going to be happening. I felt it in my spirit. But I had no idea what was coming, And, Brother Zach was like, man, get ready. Get ready, man. Because my eyes were, I thought well, now I'm here and now it's better. I'm all better. You know what I mean? I'm going to be better. These things, I'm seeing these things. My eyes are open. And what did Paul say? Paul said, you know what I mean? I do what I don't want to do, you know what I mean? And so therefore when I don't do, I want to mess this up. When I don't do what I know I shouldn't do, it's not me doing it or something, you know what I mean? What I'm saying is that I knew and could start to see these character defects. I could start to see the behavior that was coming from them. And so I thought, okay, everything's going to get better. And it really, they call it the narrow road for a reason. You know what I mean? They call it the narrow path for a reason. And I can honestly say, though, that more freedom came. And that was decrease to increase, right? It's a paradox. And there's paradoxes all through our program. But I didn't understand that for a long time in sobriety, that in order to gain, I had to give. You know what I mean? In order to live, I had to die. I didn't understand that. It's biblical. It's in Scripture. I didn't know Scripture. So as my eyes were starting to open, my spirit was starting to open, I was going through more pain, and I started getting more conflicted. I'd be calling Zach, and I'd be calling other brothers, left and right, man, just because now my spirit is awake, and I'm starting to see this stuff, and it's new, and I don't know what to do, and my behavior was totally self-centered, man. And I mean, I would love to say that because I saw, the fear of rejection, because I saw the putting my own needs and my own wants and desires above my wife's, and being inconsiderate to her, that because I saw those things, it changed. But those feelings and those emotions, they come from when I was a little kid, man, and I just didn't feel like anybody had the time for me. I didn't feel like there was any patience with me. I was the oldest. I am the oldest, the 4 boys. And So this stuff resurfaces, man. And it's like I can tend to the garden, but Jesus prunes it, man. There's no way that I'm going to even be able to, even if I do adapt, even if I do correct, even if I do adjust, even if I do pivot, which I do and I seek to do, there's no way of knowing if and when these things are going to crop back up. They will. And it's my job to kind of just surrender, man. You know what I mean? Just surrender. It's not, I will read one thing because it was not on accident that this morning the devotional that I read almost every morning, there's like one of three things that I'll read, and this thing just hit the nail on the head. And it's in the Bible app. Anybody can read it on the Bible app, the daily devotional, but it says, and this is just an excerpt. It says, think back to a decision you made that you now regret. We've all done things that weigh us down and make us wonder, why do I seem to do what I know is wrong? The Apostle Paul knew what this felt like. And this is what I was trying to quote earlier in Romans. I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but I do it anyway. Romans 7:19. The Apostle Paul described this as a struggle between our old and our new natures. Our old nature is marked by a desire to do whatever seems pleasing to us in the moment, regardless of the consequences. And while this might feel freeing at times, it ultimately leads to conflict, chaos, and destruction. Right? So, obedience before hope, right? So if I now know that I have to walk and I have to take action in order to find the willingness, if I have to, these things are paradoxes. If I have to lower myself, if I have to humble myself in order to take a step and be entirely ready and be willing, then why won't I? So, I struggle, man. And, I just thank God that there's beauty in the struggle. And I thank God that another paradox is that as I'm taking these steps, as I have people in my life that help me to take these steps towards more understanding of Jesus Christ, towards more understanding of how I can be more like him, that action inspires me to take more action, Like we've heard for a long time that and it's true, that I can't think my way into right living, man. You know what I mean? If I could think my way into right living, I would have done that a long time ago. I can't. I have to take action. I have to take steps. And naturally, by default, I don't want to take the steps, man, And people like who was speaking tonight, man, my brothers and sisters here from Home Group, like these people show me how to take steps. Because even when I see it and I know I should, and my sponsor's like, hey, man, Kenny or Matt, like, yeah, hey, man. Or Lenny's like, hey, Sister Marsha's like, hey, you, I'm like, nah, dog, and I kind of just do my own thing until it hurts, and, or I see it. And, I think there's a lot to be said about that, and Matt was saying it beautifully as well. Like, there are things that I just can't see, man. There's things that I can't see, and I need my brothers and sisters in recovery to help me to see them. Not only do I need others, and I need connection to help me see me, but I also need others, this is my experience, I need others to walk shoulder to shoulder with me. I need to be in that community. If I'm not in the community, and I'll do this too, I'll isolate, When I'm not feeling it, I'll isolate. It's a character defect of mine. And then I end up feeling bad, you know what I mean? Like I won't pick up Zach's call for 2 days because I don't feel like it. And then I'm like, on the third day, I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm not picking up his call, Let me call him back, or whatever, you know what I mean? That's how these things work when I want to isolate, and I just end up feeling guilty and ashamed anyway. Why? Because that's not God's best for me. He wants me to be useful today. I was so nervous about what I was about to say when I came up here, man. I was so, all up in my head about, saying something good and like, yo, man, you better impress these guys, man. Like, you better say something real good and slick, man. Like, you better. And I'm sitting there, and this is what I do, right? I'm hearing some stuff that people are saying, and I love everybody that came up here and shared. But also, I'm like, man, you better sound good. You know what I mean? It's about me, and I'm like, man, you got to go pray, bro. I walked out and went and prayed in the cut over there, man, on the left hand side over there, because everybody else was locked in listening, and I'm like, man, I'm not gonna go grab so and so and ask them to come and pray. I was like, let me just go pray, man, and God help me to be useful, man. Help me to be useful, God. Help me to forget about myself and what I think I need, because I don't know what I need. I have no idea what I need. My track record will prove that I have no idea what I need. Say something through me that somebody else needs to hear. Do something through me that somebody else needs to hear, because when I try, I mess it up. When I try, I end up inauthentic. And you can tell. You can tell, because I can tell, we can tell. We're pretty good reads, you know what I'm saying? That's one of our giftings. Like, we have that gift. And when I come up here and I try to be anything other than authentic, man, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So God, help me to be useful, Help me to be useful. Help me to seek to understand rather than to be understood. Help me to take action in spite of my feelings. Help me to stay connected and just show love. Be love, If I stay willing and if I seek to remain willing and remain humble, I'm going to have gratitude. And if I have gratitude, I'm going to stay willing and humble. It takes us a long way. It has given me so much. I know that God will continue to work in all our lives in this courageous work if we just keep seeking, man. Thanks for letting me share. I'm going to drop this thing, man. It didn't want to go in there. Oh, amen.
All right. We have a beautiful way of closing for those who wish to join us. It's a bit of a tradition for everybody that has served with Firm Foundations. We come up here and we close out in prayer together. So for those who have served, come on up. I was undercover. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. At a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so I'd be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Trinity Community Church. If you want to know how to run a grace-filled church, look to Trinity Community Church. We love you. Thank you so much.